Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Monday, July 22nd, meeting of the Select Board Town of Montague. Topics may start earlier than specified unless there is a hearing scheduled. The meeting is being taped and votes may be taken. And our meeting is being taped by MCTV, and we have a recorder. Is there anyone else taping? You're allowed to do so, but if you do, please let us know. First, our approval of minutes of July 1st and 8th. We're going to hold off on that.
You want to introduce the rest of the board?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Rich Kuklowitz.
Chris Boutwell.
And Mike Nelson with the Select Board.
I'm Steve Ellis, Town Administrator.
Sorry. All right, we have public comments for anything that's not on the agenda. All right, Bob McDonald, do we have sewer abatement?
I know this isn't the normal paperwork that you usually get, but my assistant was out for a few weeks, so I had to get this in.
Okay.
Anyways, the property is 146 7th Street, Turner Falls. They're asking to have some of their bill abated. The tenant that was in the apartment, they were having a legal battle with them. They couldn't get them out for quite some time. By the time they got in there, they found multiple leaks and damage. And so we did a 3-year average for the prior 3 years. It was significantly less. So I'm asking to abate this for $1,174.45. The new bill would be $2,782.91.
Motion to approve as read.
Second.
I tried to read through this to understand the motion made and seconded. And for discussion, I'll say that I read through this over the weekend and tried to understand the rationale. And typically, if something goes down the drain, we don't abate. And it sounds like these must have gone down the drain.
I understand that, but the issue was is that they wanted to make the repairs. They couldn't get into the place because of the legal battle and the tenant that they were having. So they couldn't make the repairs that they were trying to do in good faith.
So the only thing is then that sets a precedent for others to come back and say, well, I understand.
Yep.
And I'm probably inclined to go with your suggestion, you having talked with the landlord, but I just want to be careful that we,
Yeah, I understand.
That we don't set some precedent here that we get,
Okay.
an issue.
I had the exact same thought when I read it as well. My first thought was, well, it still went down the drain, so what does that have to do with us?
But I understand how difficult it can be from time to time, but that's part of the risk of tenancy.
Yeah.
So,
There you go.
okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the abatement. In the amount of $1,174. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So vote unanimous.
Do I have 2 seconds of your time, or am I done?
Yes.
We had a visit from the EPA and DEP last week on a follow-up of their inspection from April. We had a visit from EPA and DEP last week. It was a follow-up from their April inspection, and they came out, their main concern or main reason for them coming out this time was to meet with our significant industrial users to help them understand what the plant is facing and what they're trying to achieve as far as loading goes, and your total solids and your total like the sand coming from one of the significant users. So EPA and DEP both went with us to meet with these industrial companies in town, and it wasn't to pass regulation on them. It was more to get them to understand what the treatment plant is facing and what they would like for those facilities to try to consider to change some of their pre-treatment is what they're doing, is what they're asking basically. So, and out of it, what we'll end up doing is after talking with EPA's industrial pre-treatment program, we're going to do some amendments to the permits that we sent to the significant users. Basically, it's following more when the town sewer ordinance. and also following their EPA guidelines a little bit closer. So, so we're trying to get that up to date as far as 2019 goes, and versus
Okay.
a 30-year-old sewer. Yeah.
Well, as that gets worked on, and I understand you and Kevin, your lead operator, went.
Yep.
And they were productive meetings, I hope, so.
Yeah,
If
they
you
were.
get more info, please fill us in.
I will.
Good, thanks, Bob.
All right.
Okay, next we have Eileen, the Seymour District, our town treasurer collector, disclosing interest in the municipal contract. So, I am on the school committee of Clinton County Tech, which this involves, so I'll ask Michael to handle this. And
Sure.
just sit back and let you guys deal with it.
Okay, so Eileen is presenting a notice of disclosure, so Eileen, what do you got going on?
Well, as Rich said, I was recently hired as the district treasurer for the tech school. It's a 24-hour-a-month position. So I called the State Ethics Commission because I just felt that I should, and so they suggested that I file this disclosure, just to make sure that if there is any conflict of interest, and obviously if there is any, I would be sure to bring it to everyone's attention, but I don't anticipate any conflicts of interest.
Yeah, and you have noted that all your work could be done outside of your normal hours here in Town Hall.
Correct.
It wouldn't interfere with any hours, and that you're only looking at about 8 hours a week. So it's a relatively small position.
Correct, yeah.
I'd make a motion to accept the disclosure by Eileen Seymour regarding a financial interest in municipal contract with the technical school.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And this is filed with Deb, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And a colonel has to sign it.
Pardon me?
Yeah, well, I'd like to see it.
Whoop.
Somewhere, wherever this
Wherever
sticker
that-
was, it's gotta go back. Okay. All right, next we have Greg Garrison. This is your annual cycle
Yes,
criterion.
criterion.
So dates of July 24th, 31st, August 7th and 14th, around 4 to 8, about 50 people. This is again following the road up around the industrial
Yep.
park area.
Yep. Absolutely.
And Chief Dodge has signed off on it. There is insurance.
Oh,
Chief
Williamson.
Chief Williams has signed off on it, they'll put that in the paper. Yes, Chief Williams has signed off on it July 10th.
get paid much,
And this is the same as what you've been
Yes.
doing, it's what you said about 7 or 8 years.
About 8 or 9, I don't know. Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Do you have any questions?
We're all getting healthier.
Nope. Motion to approve the use of public property as the charge is read.
I will second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The dates
Thank you.
are July 24th, 31st, August 7th, and 14th.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. You have a copy of this if you want.
Yes.
Okay, next we have Personnel Board. And that would be Brian, if you want to come down for a moment. Looks like we have a new part-time person at the airport, Peter Saladino.
Yes. Yeah, so this is our second year with the intern program from the tech school. And we were able to secure him a little bit earlier in the season than last year, so. Obviously, our bigger mowing demands are July and August, so.
Motion to appoint Peter Saladino as the airport grounds and maintenance, 10 hours a week, $12.25 an hour, effective 7/18/19. 7/8/19. Wow.
I will second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Any discussion?
Does that mean we're not gonna see you out by the road through the week?
I'll still be out there. I can't sit in the office that
All
much.
all those in favor?
Aye.
So voted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, next we have a request for a cell phone stipend. This is our standard practice for annual, how do you say this last?
Wash
Yes. From the new Board of Health Director, $577 a week, effective June 3rd. Handle town business.
I'm almost positive we already did this, but I'm happy to do it
I
again.
was thinking the,
Yeah.
sort of the same thing.
So I make a motion to approve the cell phone stipend for Dan Washik, Board of Health Director, $5.77 a week, which is the standard rate, effective June 3rd, 2019.
I'll second it.
Motion's made and seconded, all those in favor?
Just to note, I'm going to abstain to avoid any potential conflict as the Board of Health voting.
Okay. All right, motion's made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, abstention?
Abstain.
One abstention. Thank you. Okay. Bruce Hunter, come on down.
Both pages need to be signed,
Oh,
both personnel and board items.
okay. Yep.
Hey, Bruce?
How are you? This is all these things. The originals for signature.
Okay, thank you.
You have a letter too, right, to sign? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. They're both on. Brian will pick them up tomorrow morning.
Okay. Let them know Wendy's not here.
Yeah.
If they don't mind.
Good evening. We have
Yeah.
two items relative to the community development block grants. FY17, we're closing it out. We submitted a final quarterly report, and there's a cover letter that needs to be signed by the chair and sent to DHCD to start the closeout process.
Good, that's the project.
Yep. Make a motion to authorize the chair to sign said letter.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded to sign the letter to Mark Southern, Director of Community Services, regarding the community development block.
Block grant, FY17.
FY7. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so voted unanimous.
So we have FY18, Rogers Park Improvement Project. We have a change order requested by the committee and John Dobis. It's for two items. One, to replace the concrete curbing which we had. Didn't give us enough reveal in a couple of places. We felt we needed a little more height, and the solution was to install a block wall and add length, a total of 100 feet, 15 feet high, 15 inches high, including a stone cap, which will provide a children's seating area within the playground in the shaded area. The second portion of the change order is, currently we have 40 feet of guardrail in the project. We had looked originally to add this additional 136 in the base bid. Since we had a unit price for the existing guardrail, we extended it to provide safety for the open space and protection for the residents from going into the roadway during play. And then part of the change order is a 10-day extension.
And this fits within the,
Yes, we have about $25,000 left. We plan on spending about $5,000 more, maybe some additional plantings, maybe rain gutters on the pavilion, and John Dovis is going to provide rain barrels for that. And then whatever money is left, we would put it into housing rehab.
okay. Any questions?
And that's wooden guardrail, so
Yes,
the
wood.
park is gonna have a pretty nice naturalized feel to it.
Yeah.
And I was
Quite
looking at the
beautiful.
stone, looks pretty
Yeah,
good quality. and,
good quality, and it's a smooth face. I think it's going to be, look really nice. It's going to add to the a feature to the park.
Make a motion to authorize change order number 1 to the Rudders Park Improvement Project, to Agua Turf Irrigation in the amount of $10,262.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, we're a bit early. Is Cassandra
Would you like
here?
to keep up on paperwork, or?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, we'll move up to Matt Carlick. And this ties in with the, well, you come on up.
Yeah, it ties in with Cassandra's part though.
Hold on to that.
She may have
Just an
some.
update on the parking plan, but just for a beer and wine for one day?
Yeah, but if it's part of
It's
that event,
related.
we should probably do it while
Okay,
everyone's
let's
here.
wait till, yeah, let's wait for now. We'll bring Chief Williams up.
Good evening, everybody.
Chief?
All right, I just wanted to give the town an update that Detective Jake Lapine was sworn into the task force on July 15th. He'll be working 2 days out of his 4 and 2 days with the task force and then 2 days in town. And the task force, before Jake was signed on, he was working with them and they executed a search warrant at the end of June, which led to 2 arrests in our town. So it's invaluable, and he's ready to get going, and he'll be a part of the task force now.
And the task force does reimburse us for some of the.
For some of the money,
expense,
yes.
Not all of it, but there's
Correct.
some match.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
What it really seems to do is provide us with a way to like expand our capacity. And I think that's the real
Absolutely.
critical thing about this is we sacrifice a little bit of his time in town at
Mhm.
certain points in time, but then we gain the benefit of extended resources from other departments
Yeah, from the whole task
to
force,
help
yeah.
us handle some of the more challenging work that we do.
Yeah, that we couldn't do on our own, yeah, absolutely.
Well, and what happens in Montague or Greenfield affects Montague or Greenfield.
Oh, absolutely,
So
yeah.
I think, like we've talked about in the past,
It all ties
in
in.
this type of task force, it all kind of ties together and makes
Mhm.
it valuable. So, great, that's good, I'm glad he's participating in that.
We're good to go there.
You're doing well.
All right.
Thanks for the update.
So are we
Okay.
now on all task force and boards and such that we were on prior to
Yes.
the latest, the prior incidents
Yes.
that we experienced?
Yeah,
So we're back
Yes.
to square one again. As
Yes.
far as being
Being-
involved with everything we can be involved with.
absolutely, yes,
Awesome.
yes,
That's great
yep,
to hear.
yep.
Good, and it's good that things are going well and appreciate you keeping us posted.
Yes, they are.
Okay,
I think I'll stay right here and move over, because is Cassandra coming up now, or not?
If
Yes.
she's ready.
We're ready.
Okay.
I'll take
So
one
next
each
we
chair.
have Sandra Holden from Donovan Productions.
Hey, how you doing? Oh, Kyle. Kyle, nice to meet you. Hey, how you doing? Updated copy of the
Thank you.
site map
Can I
there.
grab an extra one from you as well for Linda's business?
Yeah, I think so. I think, hang on, let me see how many.
I emailed her a copy as
She
well.
has it.
So she'll have it in her inbox.
Okay.
Okay, so this is regarding the event that we discussed and authorized for August 17th.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
And so fill us in, you're looking for a little bit of a change in parking, is that? what the
Yes,
question's
so
about?
one of the Gillis is still letting us park on their land, and that's approximately 150 to 200 vehicles that we can fit there.
Can't hear
We
that.
al-
Jesus, because we're involved as well in a way, because we're part of the Old Home Days, so we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay, so you have some off-site parking.
So we have some off-site parking. There's another landowner who we're in conversation with, who we feel confident is going to allow us to have some additional parking as well.
We have capacity off-site now for about 300 cars between parking on the lawn behind the mini mart and then the
The park.
well, there's the park,
Along
right,
the edges.
yep, along the edges.
Yeah.
And then we have one landowner who we've gotten confirmation from, right, on,
Right.
This is the
the
park
Gillis.
across from the.
On
from
School
the
Street.
central- Yeah.
yeah, which that capacity,
For a second. Steve, is there a way to override the air conditioner and shut it down?
I don't
Not that
have the
we're aware of.
ability to do that. No.
I know, that's what I felt like. I wonder what happened when we hit that button.
And I don't
We
know
don't
that
know
I could
what it was
restart it
doing.
if I were.
Yeah,
Okay, I didn't know if you knew of a
Interrupted.
secret button.
and with respect to Old Home Days, nobody for the festival will be coming in until probably afternoon, so.
Well, we're gonna use the park until 2, till after 2.
Yeah, no, but in terms of people coming in, most of the people who come to Old Home Days, I would think would be able to come in and park, in the places they normally would
Okay.
beforehand. We'll start to see a trickle of people come in you know, maybe between noon and 1, and then through the afternoon they would come in.
Okay, from noon to 1,
Mhm.
the park, we use the park until well after, sometimes well after 2, so you can't park cars along, well, we thought the parking was going to be just, you know, on the road, but the way you have it parked, kind of makes it, if you start before 2, it'll make it unusable for us to use it, so.
That's where the parade forms.
Okay, we can certainly allow parking there after your event, because
Yeah,
we
'cause-
have these additional lots.
Because at the park, pretty much all the station is taken up for staging, and other vehicles will stage at the fire department. But there's gonna be a lot of congestion in that area when your folks will be coming in.
Yeah,
So
so
I don't know if they can park at the Gillis's first, and
And at the
at the
mini
park,
mart.
and at
But-
the mini mart, and
Right,
then,
but you're saying, so the road, what time, I understand you closed from like the triangle, tell me if I'm using the right terminology, but there's,
Sort of by the pillar.
Main and South Street, yep,
yeah.
yep.
And that's, and you close that up to the park, right, for the parade?
Well, not really, because the parade comes down from the fire department, but then they pick up, how does that go again, Mark?
Comes down, they come down from the fire,
From the fire department on the main
and
street.
sometimes they come up from, South Main, come down West Street
Mhm.
and kind of join in there too. And some of the older, stuff will, just coming down from School Street, some of the old things that don't need, that kind of, just need a little space.
Got it, yeah.
Some of the selectmen are.
Yeah, they don't wanna walk, a long distance. We're being very polite here. But, it does take up that whole end of town.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna clog up all of Montague until well after, 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fine, so folks can park at DeGillis's first, and as
But they won't be able to get from DeGillis's to your party.
Well, they'll be able to walk down. Yeah, we're not,
Okay,
we're
all
not
right.
gonna shuttle them, it's close
Yeah.
enough
It's
that-
all walking.
Yeah, they're gonna have to walk.
Okay,
You
they have to walk.
And then we have on-site parking for handicap, folks with handicap plates.
And artists, and they'll come in from 63,
Yep.
so they won't.
That's on site, your handicap.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Now, what's the story on Center Street?
You're gonna close Center Street?
You said we heard somewhere that they were gonna close Center Street.
No?
No
No.
parking.
Okay.
That's all.
but
Well,
you-
for parking, there was a discussion about where cars should be allowed to park, especially as we get closer to residences, and so there were some people were concerned.
Yeah, well, I think Center Street will be taken up by people attending
Old Home Day.
Old Home Day,
Yeah,
so,
that's usually where they.
so that'll be a moot point, and then their staff and volunteers are gonna try and funnel people into the other areas, because I don't think we're gonna allow too much parking on Center Street.
Right, we talked about perhaps closing, or only allowing parking on one side anyway
On
for
one
that
side,
day.
yep.
Right, which would presumably be taken up by people who are at Old Home Days first.
Is
And the-
that all day, that you're only gonna allow parking on one side?
Well, for the event.
Center Street, for Old Home Days,
Yes,
which ends at 4 o'clock.
yes.
So after 4 o'clock, you can,
Well, no, for the parking, for the,
Most of our audience will have arrived by 4 o'clock, so there may be a
Yeah.
handful of people who trickle in after that. But because the event kicks off at 1, most people, it's not as though hundreds of people are gonna try to park on Center Street after 4.
yeah, because most of the parking will be taken up
by Old Home Day.
by Old Home Days.
Yes.
But as the evening progresses, people from Old Home Day leave, people coming in will be able to park on one side
A
of the
few
street.
lucky people, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it'll be very few.
And very lucky.
At that point, and I walked the property with Cassandra, Dean, and Kathy,
Yeah.
and, I told them, everybody's concern is the traffic and the timing of the event. We shouldn't have any other issues regarding the actual event itself. I called I had correspondence with the chief in East Hampton, and you guys have had, 4 events there? And he said, very professional, have never had a problem, and it's at a park in East Hampton, Mill Pond
Millside Park.
Yeah.
Mill
Millside
Pond
Park.
Live is the name of the event.
is the name of the event. Yeah, and if we do this again next year, hopefully it's not on Old Home Days weekend.
And,
How are
well,
tickets?
Good and bad for, I guess.
Well, it's good because I think that some of our people are gonna come and enjoy your event.
Yeah.
So when you're directing people to come into town, are your maps directing them to come in further up so they drive, down,
We'll have them
down
come.
into town rather than drive through the
Yeah,
center?
we'll have everybody,
Yes.
we'll be, so first of all, we can message all ticket holders, via email, and we'll be sending out a series of emails as we approach the festival date. We'll have the parking maps, and we'll make sure to show people the routes to come in, and we'll specifically let them know that if they use their GPS and get routed up, the way that you would normally come into Montague, that they're gonna hit a lot of congestion and be directed off, so,
So what street would you suggest they come down, Chief? Would it be better to come down the intersection? I'm not concerned about that intersection, we're gonna talk about a couple of items down the road.
Okay, which intersection? Is that-
47.
Crossover. The
The
63
63
crossover.
crossover.
Crossover,
Would they be
okay.
better to come down, what is that? The
South Main.
South Main, or what, no?
To the Gillis's.
Well, that's what, like we were, I was talking, was it to you or Kathy? Parking at the Gillis's will probably be accessible from 63,
63.
as long as it's safe, because of the S-curves. I was kind of concerned about that, but Kathy seems to think that there's an area where they can come off of 63. If not, they'll turn on the South Street, park on the Gillis's property,
Okay.
and then feet in.
Okay.
the entrance to that parking at the Gillis is down that road.
It's down South
South
Street a little
Street.
bit.
Yeah, it's down South Street a little bit, so you'd have to come off and
Yep.
queue up there, because the bottom of the field is where you come
Okay,
in.
and then they could continue into town if they ended up at the mini mart.
If they need
From
to,
that,
yeah, and Main Street will be closed for roughly 30-35 minutes while the parade goes
Okay.
through.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Good.
I
All
don't
right.
foresee any.
How are
Any
ticket
other
sales?
questions?
So right now, we've sold a little over 200 tickets, and, as a first-year festival, we really don't have a good, gauge, and we'll know as we get closer, but with most productions that we do, tickets sell, in the last week,
Yeah, we still see 70 to 80% of our ticket sales in the last few days before an event.
So we'll be gauging that, and we'll learn this year. We still don't expect that we'll get probably more than 1,000 people. We'd love it if we got 1,000 people, but right now, with 200 tickets sold, that's where we are.
And you
If we
have
could-
all your other, certifications all taken care of?
Yes, ma'am.
Fire, police, and all that sort of business?
Yeah, I spoke with the East Hampton chief, and they have 2,000 to 3,000 people at their event, and one officer has been sufficient. We're just gonna have to figure out the time frame, and we can have further conversation on that.
Yeah, and we can update you as ticket sales progress as well, so you can judge what you think is the
As
right
needed. Okay.
level of detail.
Good, okay.
Just, if I may?
Sure.
So what exactly is the police detail on the road to help? Who's managing all of these people who are gonna come in and possibly be a little bit confused about parking, to make sure that,
They're gonna have a
So we will have
bunch of volunteers.
volunteers at each of the parking locations
okay,
to help people park efficiently and also to direct them so they know how to walk to the festival.
okay, and you didn't provide today, you provided a map again of
The festival.
the festival, but not a map of the parking. I think the first time you came in, you actually had some rough maps of parking. So will we have available to us?
Yes, I did email something to Wendy,
Okay,
an updated parking map,
okay.
And we'll.
but I can send that directly to you.
But that would be great. I would just like to know how
Yes.
many volunteers where, and really have the plan there.
Sure,
yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
we have to be accountable to obviously all of our residents, all of our citizens, and we want you to be very successful and have a good event. So if you don't mind,
I'd be happy to.
don't feel like you're overdoing it. If you give us more detail about this plan,
Sure.
in writing, that'd be great.
Yeah, and we'll update you as soon as the other landholder confirms with us that we have this additional site as well.
Sure, and that's another site that hasn't been
That's
referenced
opposite the
today.
Gillis.
That's opposite
right,
the
right,
Gillis,
if my,
yeah.
my name's
Okay.
correct. When that's a considerable, that's larger than the Gillis.
Yeah, it's Hunting Hills Farm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The
field. And so it'll be nice if that works out, because that'll be bringing people to the same location essentially as the Gillis. And for each location that we would operate with parking, we would have a minimum of 3 volunteers working in shifts and also on radio
Okay.
to coordinate the communication.
It's not very well lit at night on your way back. it's a really bad road
To walk
be
down the
walking
street,
on.
yeah.
It's-
Yeah,
there's
that's a really
nothing.
good point,
There's
yeah.
nothing.
At 11 at night.
Montague Center does not have prolific street lighting.
Neither does South Street.
You just
I mean,
you have to know where you're going.
Yeah.
The event ends at 11. So we'll have, in terms of pedestrian traffic, there will be some people who are transitioning to the book mill
The
because we
phase
have
of
an
the moon
after
that
party
night.
there that goes from 11 until about midnight. And then other folks, of course, will be headed to their cars because they're departing. Most people do have cell phones with flashlights.
That's what I was gonna say, every iPhone has a flashlight.
So, not that, but we'll also have volunteers helping to move people so that,
Navigate,
yeah.
Wendy's watching at home and just forwarded me the map for us to look at.
She's supposed to be.
That's
on
Happy
amazing.
vacation.
I'll send it to you, Steve.
Yeah, and
I'm just-
Maybe it'll be a full moon that night
Wendy,
too, and
turn
it'll
off
be
the
easier to see.
television.
So could you reiterate again around the ball field, just what you were going to do, when you were gonna come in?
Around the ball field area?
Around the ball field part.
So there are a limited number of spots there that we could park. So if we fill up the mini mart parking, which is not gonna happen until after the parade, right? Because during the parade, nobody's gonna have access to that anyway.
Right.
Okay, so after the parade is over and the street's been opened up, we'd park people into the mini mart field there behind the mini mart. And if that hits capacity, we would then go around and park, there's probably about 40 spaces along the backside of the ball field.
And you're talking about onto the ball field, not on the road.
Not on the road, they'd be pulling right into the ball
Right
field.
into
It's
the
a
ball
single
field.
line right on the ball field,
Okay.
yeah. And there's a bunch of new trees planted there, so it's kind of a limited
Yeah,
area
they
that.
kinda-
Yeah, so
Boy, don't hit those.
there's the point we need to make sure of is, no one can park on those trees or they'll,
Yeah, and
Right,
they'll
and we
they'll
plan
really
to-
damage them.
Yes, we plan to create lawn signs that have very clear messaging telling visitors that those areas are not
It
available.
should be, at
That's
least,
great.
I would say 5 or 6 feet away.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
won't, so
and I
we
understand
won't
there are
park
plus or
between the
minus
trees
20
either.
trees,
Right.
like
It's
20.
sort of, it's shrunk
Right
that
on
original
corner, there
idea
was
to
like 5.
Yeah,
just,
sure.
it's the school street side
Right
there.
on the
Any other
other.
questions? Kathy?
I just had a question about the tree situation. If it's critical that we're not parking, or then nobody's parking, not just on August 17th, I mean, should we put some signs up just from the town, or cones? Does the DPW have extra cones?
For permanent, use permanent. We've
I
been
mean,
talking with the
like,
tree
or like
committee
those
about
real
some of the
estate
concerns
signs.
around trees and parking and so
Because
forth.
I had
so-
no idea until it came up in this meeting that you weren't supposed to park on the street next to those trees.
It's also, I
There's some
imagine, a concern
concern,
for
yes.
your event as well, because.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yes, the tree committee was here and they're working to try to look at some plans that could help with protection, and they did talk about some, it's still early in their stages, but they're working on it. And all we're trying to do is just do what we can as they work on their plans to try to protect what's there. You know, there were some areas where they could hardly get a shovel in the ground,
Yeah.
so.
In general, what we really heard reinforced, I think, at our last meeting from the Tree Advisory Committee and their expert arborist, is that there's a critical root zone under every tree. And anyone who chooses to park where roots are likely to lie, and maybe define that by, you know, the actual canopy of the tree, is over time going to do significant damage to
Wow.
that tree.
Gotcha.
So, it's an educational process that we're just beginning to
Yeah.
sort of be exposed to.
So as you learn more, can you map out those areas clearly for us? So, because we would love to work with you so that, you know, we create appropriate signage. I'm sure you're interested in
We
doing
can
that as
ask
well,
somebody
because
from
it's.
the
Contact-
tree committee to.
Contact the
Yeah.
DPW.
Yeah, that's
Because
extra
your
copy.
attendees are arriving earlier than ours.
Oh, yeah, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
6:30.
So that signage needs to get deployed well in advance.
Yes, Jeff, you have any questions?
I know you're in a hurry. Can you just remind me what the time frame, when does your thing start?
1
It
PM.
starts at 1 and goes until 11.
That's when your music starts?
Mhm.
Yes.
1 to 11 music. And and Old Home Days is from when to when?
Oh, 6 to 4. 8 to 4.
And we're,
When's the parade?
12:30.
One,
This year it's 12 now.
It's 12:30, they moved us to 12:30.
It's
12:30?
12:30 this year.
12:30 is the parade?
Okay.
To one,
Okay.
12 to one.
All right, anybody have anything else?
Just a
Okay.
couple of other quick notes. So you have a copy of our COI, and Wendy requested that we get an additional, name you as an additional insured.
Yes.
So that paperwork is in process, and you should have that in the next couple of days.
Good. All right, next we have Matt from Abandoned Building Brewery. To get a one-day. All right, you're applying for a one-day beer and wine premises.
Right, so this is in conjunction with the event that Design was putting on, or Laudable Productions.
I saw the insurance looked like it was adequate, the tips.
It didn't name the town as an additional insured, so that needs to be,
So there's another brewery that's a part of this application, New City Brewery. They were not able to make it to the meeting tonight, but they were able to get me their COIs.
Okay.
I have my updated one that has the city of Montague named as officially insured.
Okay.
okay.
Oh, city,
yeah, that's what it is.
That's fine.
Close enough.
City. And then,
You could get, so this is gonna be, you're the person taking the permit out, it's gonna be your responsible for this, you're gonna use some other liquor, but you're only be the only
so
on-site, is that?
it'll be myself and New City Brewery is the other brewery we're kind of working on this permit in conjunction together. So
Okay.
this is what we've done with them in East Hampton, where we both pooled the one-day license and we both kind of are the ones serving the alcohol at the events.
Okay, so
Here's-
single application,
It's a single application for two
dual
entities.
certificates of
This one's the
insurance, and et cetera.
Is that
So-
okay to do?
I think you list everybody there. So I think we'll have to issue two special one-day permits. Does that sound, I mean, it's two
That
different
is-
business entities.
There are two different entities, yes.
Yes, and what I think we would request is, since we have your signature on the original only, we can sign yours today.
Okay.
And then, and the board can, if it so desires, move to approve contingent on receipt of a separate application for New City.
That makes sense to me.
Okay, and then they can sign and execute that fully once they've taken care of what they need to.
Sure.
All right, so let's do two separate motions. and then we'll go over this.
All right, so I make a motion, we approve a request for a one-day special license for beer and wine to be drunk on the premises of 27 Center Street, Montague, Mass, from 1 o'clock till 11 o'clock p.m. to Abandoned Building Brewery, 142 Pleasant Street in East Hampton. We have the police, do we have the police sheet signed off? We have a certificate of insurance.
I don't think this requires it.
Oh, it does down at the bottom.
Oh, it does.
It hasn't signed off yet.
So we'll need to get that.
Should I go get him?
We can probably log that. We can just take care of that, so.
Yep.
Contingent on that, right?
Contingent on the chief setting up on it.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So vote unanimous.
And I'll make a motion to approve one-day special license for the sale of beer and wine to New City Brewery, 180 Pleasant Street, East Hampton, for an event 27 Center Street, Montague, on August 17th, 2019, from 1 p.m. to 11 p.m., contingent on the police chief's signature, and we did get insurance on that one, right?
You
just
did
give us
get
a copy of that
insurance
one?
and tips.
Yeah.
I just had it.
Yeah, so just contingent on a completed certificate and the chief signing off.
Okay,
I'll second.
motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So vote unanimous.
And is there a application fee for this?
Sure, Steve.
Yes.
It's a, not a, there's a.
Yes, but I don't have that noted here. $50, actually.
$50?
$50 each
Okay.
for each company.
Alright, I can fill that out right now.
Okay. Or you'll need to stop down to get the form because the police chief needs to sign off on the official one.
Okay.
So, you can, Wendy will be
You can
back
just do it all in.
next. Is Wendy off this week or just?
She's off this week, yes.
So Wendy will be back.
If you wanna write a check, I can clip it in here for
Okay.
her.
Sure,
You know.
okay. All right,
And you'll communicate with the folks at New City, or?
Yes, I will. I'll be
Okay.
in touch with Sam.
And you can direct them to me if they have any questions in Wendy's absence, okay?
Will do.
good,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Okay, next is Turner Falls Rod and Gun.
Here you are.
Good. All right, so you're looking for a change of manager.
Yeah, bar manager.
So your new bar manager is
John
Jason.
Wood.
I'm sorry.
No,
John Woods.
John Wood.
Okay. And let's see, what do we need? Anything, tip certification? Is that?
I
if that's what
believe
you want.
everything is done.
Yeah, Wendy
Taken care
told me
of
that she
with Wendy.
worked pretty exhaustively on this one to make sure that everything that needs to be attended to was properly attended to.
All right.
Make a motion to approve the request of change of manager and change of officer for the annual on-premise section 12 all alcoholic beverage liquor license at the Turner's Falls Rod and Gun Club, 15 Depot Road in Turner's Falls, to John Woods, and approve all other information that's been inserted.
I'll second. Motion made and seconded, to authorize change of manager. Any discussion?
I think just so, I believe there's a fee from the state, I think it's $200 or something like that for a change of manager.
I think we approved it, then you have to
Yeah.
send it in.
Yeah.
And they get a pretty good fee.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, thank you very
We've
much.
done this before, so you,
All right, and,
okay.
want to get the approval, maybe down the check for $200 for
That's not for us.
Yeah, I believe that's with the state. You can check in with Wendy.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
if there's any questions about the process.
Okay, Walter, come on down.
We do the work, the state takes the check.
That's correct.
My name is Jennifer.
You certainly may. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Walter, you got a couple items?
Good evening.
Okay,
Wendy says the check was already sent electronically to the state.
Boy,
You
she's
get off
good.
the TV.
thank you, Wendy. Okay, Walter, what do you got for us?
I feel like she's gonna grade me up.
So first up, I've got closing out the Municipal Vulnerabilities Program Fiscal Year 18 Action Grant. And this was to fund design and permitting of a solution to the flooding along Montague City Road in between Turner's and Montague City, a notorious area that floods every few years. The design at this point is complete, and what they're proposing to do, I think I mentioned this to the board a few weeks ago, is they're going to essentially rechannelize and redevelop the floodplain for that, it's about a quarter-mile stretch of stream or channels, what we'll call it, along the roadway, so that it will better accommodate high flows of water. And as a backup to that, they're going to put in drainage structures along Montague City Road to catch any overflow of the stream. Will go into a drainage structure and re-enter the stream further down where it won't flood the roadway. So all in all, with those two levels of protection, dredging and a little bit of drainage work, it'll protect the 100-year storm. And so it shouldn't flood, at least on an annual basis, as regular as it does. At this point, the project's gone through the Montague Conservation Commission and has its wetlands permit. But because it's riverfront, it kind of bumped it up to a higher permitting threshold, and there's a little bit more permitting required than we had initially thought. It triggers MEPA, the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act, which is a state permit that gets issued, as well as a 401 water quality certificate that gets issued by DEP and in partnership with the Army Corps of Engineers. So unfortunately, we're not fully permitted at this point. We have the local permits in hand, but there is a next step to keep this project moving in the right direction. I do have a quote for what it's gonna take to get that next step of permitting done. It's $9,700, and I'm working with Tom Bergeron in Highway to get Chapter 90 funds allocated to that so that the project can keep advancing. At this point, the project has a cost estimate of $365,000 all in. And the construction itself would be about $304,000, and that, so I was quoting you with the 20% contingency, a pretty large contingency at this point. So there's.
Any ideas on how we could fund that much?
So there's two different grant sources we could look at. There's the Municipal Vulnerabilities Action Grant, which we had applied for a few months ago and weren't successful. The project wasn't fully baked enough to get the funding through. So we can reapply for that round. There's supposed to be another round in September. Or also the Federal Natural Hazard Mitigation Grant Program could fund this. Both of those are 75% funding projects, so if we look at the town, is probably gonna have to come up with a 25% match to make the project happen, so that puts you about $91,000.
Thinking about that strategically, because that would be, roughly 20% of any given year's Chapter 90 allocation, it's a bigger chunk than normal, and it's the type of thing where we might want to consider whether, it's appropriate to consider a special article to supplement on some level as we move forward. So
That would definitely be one to consider.
Walter, I would just suggest that if you think that's an eventuality, that we talk about consideration for that for the special town meeting this fall, so that we would be kind of prepared to show required match if necessary for one of those two grant programs.
Yeah, maybe at least a large portion of it, maybe not all of it, but maybe like 75. And the rest could come from either other funds or Chapter 90.
Yep, we could, and we looked at different options for the project, maybe just doing the dredging of the channel and not doing the catch basins in the road. However, the end result is you'd have a road that probably would still flood once a year at the end of the day, and we want to be done with it.
It really creates a very unsafe condition down there when the road is not only an inconvenience, but it's unsafe. Because people still try to continue to drive because they say, well, it's only 4 inches deep,
Or can't even tell, or it just looks like.
And so I think, and it's something that needs to be addressed. And so my biggest concern is, let's get it addressed. Let's try to get some grant funding, and you'll do a great job on working on that. And then above all else, let's make sure we maintain it after we get the funding and get it done a few years from now.
There's a lot of discussion about maintenance. We have a very stringent maintenance plan, and the Conservation Commission is going to help hold the feet to the fire.
There's a cost to that every year.
There is.
And so we'll have to make sure we fully understand that when the time's more appropriate to talk about it. But how do we make sure we execute that plan? DPW does that, or we need outside resources, or how do we make sure we fund that properly?
Right.
Okay, good. All right.
So I did want to ask for, I do need a statement, a motion from you to execute the closeout documents for the grant program.
Okay, that's the letter you part of.
Yep.
Okay, so moved. Motion is made and seconded to approve the chair to sign the letter to Director of Climate Adaptive and Resilience, Mass Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. Second?
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. So voted unanimous. Good. Thank you, Walter.
And about the extra permitting phase, would you like to put that on as a separate agenda item in a future meeting, or are you comfortable giving the go-ahead there?
You're looking to do that with Chapter 90 funds, right? And Tom has the discretion to spend those as he needs. I don't know that we need, we could do an authorization now or endorse that we continue to finalize the design and use Chapter 90 to do so. I think we should try we should keep the project moving is where I'm going with that.
I would agree with moving it forward. I would be cautious about just naturally spending Chapter 90 money, because I
Right.
feel like we do that all the time.
Right, right.
We just gotta say, oh, we'll just take some Chapter 90 money.
Yeah,
You've
yeah.
talked to Tom,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's already been put into D.
So he's already
DOT
kind of put
for
some aside
request,
for
yeah.
this?
Yeah, I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure I was doing it with this board's blessing to continue
Yeah,
the project.
I just know
yeah.
there's so many competing projects that Chapter 90
Right.
money can be used for.
Yes.
I know Tom would like to see this fixed as well.
Yeah.
So, as long as he's okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would-
And
All right.
if,
If he's not, I'll be back.
that
Alright.
sounds like a.
That works for me.
Perfect. Okay.
All right. The next item I'm here for is to request authorization to submit a MassWorks grant application for what I'm calling the Canal District Gateway Project. And this is a project I've described a few weeks ago. It's replacing the 5th Street pedestrian bridge over the Canal District. This is the bridge that services the former Southworth Turners Falls paper mill that was closed in 2017, the same month that the paper mill closed. That is a town-owned bridge, and any potential reuse of that mill or properties near it, including the properties across the street and behind it, really rely on that bridge being opened. All the parking for the mill is on the other side of the canal. So this board had last gave authorization to proceed with an engineering firm to drop some schematic design plans and cost estimates. Unfortunately, I don't have those ready for you tonight. I was hoping to come here with something more. But I also, since you're on a bi-weekly schedule and the grant is due in roughly 2 weeks, I needed to proceed, kind of hoping to get your blessing so that I can support this grant application, knowing that it's not in its final stages yet.
Well, I think it makes total sense.
Yeah.
To get that done.
Yeah, and I know we don't have a final budget number to work with right now, but if the MassWorks grant does not require a local match, and so.
I would strongly urge that the board authorize this now. We talked about it, the next meeting is actually before the submission date, but if there were some strange sequence of events that meant we couldn't meet, then we would find ourselves unable to capitalize.
Walter's done good with getting us the MassWorks grants in the past, and certainly we need to do something there. So,
Yep, I have no problem doing that.
okay. So, would you like a motion from us to authorize you to proceed?
Yes, please.
So moved.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, Jeff?
Since it's just to proceed, there's no number attached to this. Well, is there?
Not right now.
Correct. We're going to submit a grant application, there's no match requirement associated with it.
Are you thinking of utilities across that bridge?
Yeah, yep, it would provide utilities to 36 Canal and 42 Canal.
Could I just clarify that a little bit, Walter? It would provide the trunk lines that would go to the private property line. It would not actually seek to make improvements to private property.
Yep.
It would provide some access for some. Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I assume that will include your ability to sign a statement of support for the grant as well? Is that broad enough?
Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
Okay.
Great. 'Cause I'll
All
be-
right, and last you have a letter to Mass DOT.
Yeah. So it was brought to my attention by Michael that there was a really bad accident at the intersection of 47 and 63, also known as North Levitt Road. This is a notoriously bad intersection. The county, the FERCog keeps a list of the most hazardous intersections in Franklin County, and twice it's been on that list. Its highest ranking's been number 3. This is going back probably a decade now. It was number 3, and nothing's been done since then. And on July 4th, there was a bad accident. The cyclist got hit, and it's known as a problematic intersection. So what I'm writing to do is request, after consulting with the FERCog transportation planners, they suggested that, if this board wanted to take an action item, it would be to request DOT to conduct a roadway safety audit, and to request them to take, to follow through with the suggestions in that audit. And so that's what this letter says. It just kind of puts puts it on DOT's radar that this is a problematic area for the community and that we want to see something happen there.
This is good. You wanna read it into the, so people hear what we did? Oh, yeah, just.
I don't think we need to. It's
Really, we got to the
Walter
dressing.
summarized it, that we're requesting a road safety audit to be done for that
Yeah,
intersection.
it's a tough intersection, and so, I actually, yesterday, I think it was just yesterday, I came, from Sunderland, and I said, boy, I'm gonna avoid that intersection, so I cut down Gun Road.
Yep.
And I tell you, that's not much better.
It's not.
Coming out of there to cross onto 63 is like, I'm thinking like, I know sometimes I've gone as far as there to go to continue south, but I was like, I don't know if this really did me much good. It's debating. So definitely something needs to be done there because it's a bad spot. And so I would
Yeah.
entertain a motion
So-
to,
And just as a note, that was July 4th, that was that motorcycle accident, which is when I reached out to Walter and asked him to look into moving something forward. 6 days later, there was another one.
was there?
Yeah, yeah, it was less than a week later, there was another
But
accident.
you could attach that report too then.
Yeah, I believe it was the 10th, could have been the 11th, but it was
Okay,
definitely within
I'll check, yeah. And I also conferred with Police Chief Williams and Superintendent Tom Bergeron. They're both fully support this letter.
Yeah, if there is a second one, you could even,
Yeah.
if you wanna update the note, the letter, let me
Yeah.
know and I can stop at lunchtime and sign it someday.
Okay.
Okay, motion's made and seconded to authorize the chair to sign the letter dated July 22nd. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so voted unanimous.
It was Thursday, July 11th.
Question, did we vote on the prior? Steve asked me on the prior.
The authorization?
For the mass works?
Yeah.
I don't know if we were required to vote on that, were we? I don't think we made a motion on it.
Just to be safe, I make a
Yeah,
motion to
please.
authorize Walter to move forward with submission of a MassWorks grant application in regards to the Canal District Gateway Project.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So unanimous. Okay,
All right. Thank you.
thank you, Walter. Appreciate your hard work.
I'll stick around for this next
Yeah,
Okay,
conversation.
next we have a
absolutely.
purchase and sale agreement, so in the industrial park.
Yes, so the town was approached by Callaway Biomass Heat and Power Solutions. They're interested in having what would primarily be an inventory storage facility in the airport industrial park. They're looking at a plot, it's really the last large remaining lot in the park that is not yet developed. It had previously been under land development agreement with Atlantic Golf and Turf, I believe, which was also gonna cite a warehousing facility on it. It's something of a difficult lot to develop because of its characteristics. It's sandwiched between the loop road of the industrial park and the steep embankment of the Connecticut River there. But it is a nice site. After some ongoing discussion, the town has agreed, the company has agreed to purchase the lot and develop it. There are 6.3 developable acres on the lot and at a price of $25,000 an acre. Their offer is $157,500. I should note that this is an increase in the rate that we've historically charged per acre, which was $22,000, you may recall, from previous sales to Jaduk in my tenure and others before that. We had consulted with a couple of local commercial real estate people on the price, and there was a general sense that it remains in the town's interest to keep it a low cost, to make certain that we are particularly attractive to developers, to would-be business owners in the park. And so what you have before you today is a purchase and sale agreement. This land is under control of the EDIC, and when we get to the final purchase, the deed, both the select board and the EDIC will be required to sign that. But at this point, at the purchase and sale phase, it is left to the board to handle that.
Okay, and Walter, was this the way, I mean, there was some other land up there, I'm not sure if this was it, but if for some reason they don't execute on this, what's the time frame where, I mean, they can't just sell this to somebody else, is that correct? This needs to-
Correct. There are covenants that are put on the deed when it's sold that require them to meet certain performance standards, including timeframes. I believe, I don't have the covenants in front of me right now, but there are strict timeframes.
It was a couple of years.
This is the property that the town bought back from the previous owner that did not act within those timeframes.
That's what I thought.
It's the same
Same
timeframe.
covenant.
Yeah,
The covenants don't change.
I mean, I would want to see them succeed and
Right.
build their property there, but I just wanna make sure we're
Yeah. The construction of improvements needs to begin within the first 6 months after the sign of the purchase and sale, and shall be completed within 18 months of approval of appropriate permits.
Yep,
So-
and in this case, site plan review is gonna be required from the planning board, which is a by right thing, but the planning board gets to get a detailed look at the setbacks and the design of the building, make sure it's compatible with the park.
All right. Okay. Do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion to execute the purchase and sale agreement, and the associated documents for the sale of map 17, lot 58, on Industrial Boulevard to Callaway, how do you say it? Callaway?
Callaway.
Callaway, in the amount of $157,500.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded, any discussion?
Just make one minor typo note, under purchase price, the word "one" is written the word "on", so we just need to add an E on it.
Yes, I see that, the sum
On number 4, under title deed on page 1.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, motion's made and seconded, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so vote unanimous.
I'll just add a note for the press. Callaway is spelled Caluwe, and they specialize in commercial and residential biomass heating equipment. They're North American distributors for a variety of what we've been told are particularly high-quality systems that are available. They are interested in moving into a Western Mass location because they found that a large segment of their market is actually located in Western Massachusetts, as opposed to Burlington, where their corporate headquarters is.
And this is a warehouse and a showroom. This is not a biomass plant, as some people
No.
might be concerned that when they hear that word.
Yep, so they're just, and they're small units, I think, right? They're not really large.
These
Right,
are,
yes.
More like pellets.
these are like residential type units, small
Yeah.
commercial.
Yeah. And for those that might be interested, there are still 2 small lots left in the industrial park after this. There's a 4-acre lot and a 2.1-acre lot, so very small lots for industry.
Just right for somebody though.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Walter.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think we all
You all
have.
sign that?
Yes. Jeff, can you give us a quick synopsis of your last meeting with FRTA group?
So, it was actually Franklin Regional Council of Governments that is doing a big transit plan they do every 3 or 4 years. And it includes roads, bridges, airports, walking, bicycling. So it's a big thing with a lot of stuff in it. And I went to one of their public input sessions and I gave them my opinion. I didn't claim to represent you or the board or anybody in particular, except for me. But it's some stuff that I've argued in the past, and I also sent it to them. Megan Rhodes sent me back and said they would include some of the comments in the transit plan. One of the things I emphasized is making one of the goals. I mean, they're talking about this is a 20-year goal thing. There's some short-term, medium, and long-terms, but really sit down and try to figure out how we can expand the base of public transportation, not just for people who don't have a car and are, in that situation, but maybe people who might want to share a car, families, in places like that. So, and I linked that to some comments on Route 23. And expanding Route 23 and trying to reduce the redundancies in the system because there's buses that go at exactly the time that Route 23 does up High Street. And that's like a huge part, actually a large part of the ridership at 23 is of the longer routes, both the Orange route and the Sunderland route, people that are going to Turner's Falls from downtown Greenfield take those and then they build up the ridership. One of the reasons the Orange route has good ridership is it takes people down Montague City Road, and it serves that, so. I just think we ought to put on the table over the next few months doing that. I also had a conversation with Tina about Route 23, and I know you're in a hurry, so we could talk about this. We could talk about this more, but she wants to extend the pilot until January, saying that it's just 6 months is awfully hard to get people used to that's coming in midday, and I agree with her. My biggest issue is I actually met with the mayor and with the town planner in Greenfield about ways of having Greenfield pay their share of Route 23 without, it involves eliminating Route 24 up High Street, not all of Route 24, but some of it. And then it would be revenue neutral if you combine the two together. I know there's going to be objections to that, there's pluses and minuses to it, but it is one way to lower the cost, and it is one of the ways to lower redundancy and improve ridership, and it's one of the ways, I think, to get Greenfield to buy into it. The mayor's not going to be there after, December, I believe, so a new mayor might have a different view of that.
Right, we'll keep lobbying for it.
Yeah,
If they want to continue through January, I think that route has some value, especially to hopefully attract at some point more, residential or, higher end apartment developments in the area.
Yeah, I take that route all the time, and I do have to say that the regular riders who take the shorter pieces of that route, they figured it out when it goes through Miller's Falls and comes into Turner's and heads off to Greenfield. They've actually figured out the timing pretty quickly, And it wasn't like we did fabulous publicity, so I was kind of surprised at just riding it that's happened. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate your efforts. Ken, you arrived just in time. So this is Ken Warren and Steve Ellis, Public Works Facility, and this is the final step to get our contract going.
It is.
Go after.
Yeah, as we shared with you at our previous meeting, the low bidder for the project, general contractor, was BW Construction of Spencer, Mass, at a value of $7,663,893. They have, statutorily, they had to comply with a number of requirements in terms of getting all appropriate bonds and related paperwork together, and providing us with signed copies for the select board to review and approve and execute themselves. And so, as would be expected on a project of this magnitude, they got their work done in a very timely fashion. Initial indications are that they are efficient administratively, which is always a relief, because you never know as you start these relationships. And so, I'll let Ken comment further, but ultimately we're looking for the Select Board to move to execute the Town of Montague's contracts for the DPW facilities construction with BW Construction Company at a value of $7,663,893.
Make that motion.
I will second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? I was interested in the list of subcontractors. Looks like they've got some pretty well-known names there.
Yeah,
good quality,
local,
Springfield and Pittsfield, but Massachusetts area and well-known to the region, so that's good. Okay.
The references, the checks that, Steve mentioned, where it came out real good report on them, the company, and they had an option to review their bids in case there was a mistake, because they were lower, like almost $500,000 lower, but things look good. It's a win-win for the town of Montague to move on this project at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, we oftentimes complain about the disadvantages of being located in western Massachusetts. In the current construction bidding environment, I think it was really an advantage for the town to be in western Massachusetts.
Here.
Oh, yeah.
In the contract, we have a typo.
It's spelled Montague wrong.
The Montague town of is
first
spelled
time.
wrong.
All right, any other comments? We have a motion on the floor, I believe, right? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so vote unanimous. So we will get that signed. Right, you're going, I think all of us need to sign this.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, yeah, but is it the typo one?
I'm not sure.
The typographical error will be incidental. I'll check with council. If it needs to be changed, they can change the signature.
I'll let you sign. What's,
They spelled Montague wrong, just a few too many vowels.
Montague. I guess that means that, we can tell them that they can go get their money from another town called Montague.
I'll tell you, the pronunciation of that is not always like it sounds supposed to be either, so.
Yeah.
Many a times.
Okay. Anything else? Very good. Motion was passed unanimously, so we are done with that one. Thanks.
Great. We look forward to reporting as we get ready for site work. The committee should, in the coming days, begin to receive schedule for construction and, other documents that'll be of interest. We'll get those up on the DPW facilities construction page as they become available, and then a report to you folks.
We have a meeting tomorrow night in BW that's supposed to have some representation there. Meet the committee for the
Just a
first
quick meet and
time.
greet.
Great.
And
Basics.
Roger kickoff. That's
once
great.
we get going, we will have monthly reports that we receive from the owner's project manager that will allow us to brief you and keep the community informed relative to progress against task and progress against budget.
Very good. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Ken. Thank the committee for their efforts. Okay, next is,
That's it, thanks.
on the admin business, we've got, contract with Renaissance for the library doors we heard about a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, so this is, bear with me just a moment if you will. Yes, we have an agreement for construction. This is a project under $10,000, that it was, will make safety improvements and also protect substantially the entryways to the Carnegie Library. Presently, as you walk in, the large doors are beginning to warp and show issues with moisture that sometimes cause them to fail to lock properly or to lock and not be able to be unlocked. Those doors are going to be stripped down, varnished, I think really preserved nicely, for another 10 to 15 years. Inside, there are two large swinging doors. They're very heavy. They're really historic in their detail. They're going to change the hinging on those so that those no longer sweep 180 degrees in either direction, which can lead to incidents where people might get their fingers pinched. They're very heavy doors. And so we really are excited to be taking care of this project. And so we're looking for the board to execute this agreement between the town of Montague and Renaissance Builders for the Carnegie Library Entry Door Project at $9,998.
So moved.
second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Jeff?
So are they gonna, those inner doors gonna swing, which way are they gonna swing?
Whichever way the fire code says they
I
have
would
to,
think
Jeff.
outward, I would think.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion?
Sorry, I don't have a better answer for you than that.
All those, okay, outward. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so vote unanimous. Okay.
Okay, we also received formal notice, and this was reported in some local media recently while I was away, relative to being granted intervenor status on the question of whether FERC should approve the splitting of First Light Hydro's assets into two separate assets, one really the Turner's Falls impoundment and the other being the Northfield Mountain project. As you're aware, we've previously received communication from First Light, which has indicated that the primary reason on their side is that these projects are treated differently in capital markets, and therefore, when they're looking to refinance and take other steps, they have, they're not apples to apples. We were all quite concerned with the timing of their request to FERC, which happened during the federal shutdown. And everyone is just concerned that we have the opportunity to protect our interests and to appeal should FERC choose to grant them the right to separate their assets this way. So
Okay, and
it's informational at this point in time. We plan to convene with FERCog and other communities to get a sense of precisely where people's views are presently relative to this. It's unclear how much efficacy we'll have as interveners, to be perfectly candid.
I think more info has come out since, and their explanation seems somewhat plausible, so we'll wait and see how that all plays in the larger scheme of discussions.
I think so. I think we need to make certain that the town is sensitive to anything that might change our view of our interests in this matter. And there are those who've raised caution flags, and so we'll engage with them and make certain that we're well informed. I actually know that Jeff Singleton has been following this rather avidly.
Can I say something real quick about this?
Sure.
I think one of the concerns that I heard was that if they separated off into two corporations, and they've assured me that this wouldn't happen, because I talked about it today, that the big cash generator is Northfield Mountain, so that gets separated off from the dam and the canal and Cabot Station, which is us, right? And that if we make requests on, in our part of the process for what we would like to see at the canal or whatever, and it's expensive, would it be a situation where they would say, well, it's not economically feasible for this new corporation, which has less money coming in to implement, that there might be, you see what I'm saying, if you separate them off. So that may, it'll be interesting to raise the issue now, because I would think it would limit First Light's ability a little to make that case, and you've already expressed that concern a bit,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Right. Well, it's interesting, and I was trying to understand, and maybe people who go on the river more often might know, but like, I noticed yesterday when we had a high energy demand, that there was very little water going over the dam, and very little water moving down the canal. So it seemed to me like, my thought was that the utility that First Light, I shouldn't say utility, First Light was probably generating out of Northfield and filling the downstream reservoir to get ready to pump it up and then pump it up again at night. It looked like water levels were pretty high yesterday afternoon. That was, kind of my thinking and living around. And I'm not sure if that's right or not, but there was pretty high energy demand yesterday. I'm thinking they must have been running Northfield. So, but I saw very little water moving down the canal, which usually you can really see it from down. So I'm thinking that that's probably more efficient way to generate. So definitely my point is it's kind of all part of the same machine, if you would, that they all intertwine with each other. So, okay. All right, thanks for that update, Steve. Update on capital projects.
Yes, so I just wanted to share that we expect that the work will be complete on the Colley Building on or around August 12th at this point in time. The Colley Building? So,
August 12th?
yes, in that vicinity. And of course, it's a very weather-dependent project because it involves our, windows and painting as well as masonry work. the last part of the project, will be repairing some of the masonry that is over the cutlery buildings. And so there'll have to be a lift there, and that may cause some disruption to traffic. It may mean that we need to pay for some additional traffic details, if there's a lane closure. So these are just potential inconveniences that could arise. They've completed work on the Avenue A facing side of the building. The work there was less intensive overall than expected in terms of the number of sills or sashes that needed to be replaced. What we're finding, and I guess I'd say not that surprising given the exposure, is that on the 3rd Street side, there were, we're still within our allotted number of replacement sills and et cetera, as defined in the original procurement, but they did have to take out a number of sills. They're replacing those with cedar, and everything that's being done, of course, has to meet Mass Historic standards. And I just want to commend Chris Sawyer-Lacano, who every single day, for a very nominal fee, is down there making sure that the project is being done properly, both representing the architectural concerns and the day-to-day project management and oversight of the construction concerns.
The front of the wayside, I noticed this weekend looks nice.
Yeah. I also want to mention that we are expecting R&H Roofing of East Hampton to begin their work on 2 roofs in town, properly insulating and replacing the roof, the main roof of the Shea Theater. We expect that that will be beginning, I believe that is on or about August 5th. It's immediately after a major event that's at the Shea Theater, so the timing happens to work well, and I think the contractor delayed slightly to make that possible. They are not actually anticipating that there'll be a loss of HVAC during the project. They think that they can keep all the systems running, but just to avoid any potential, issues. They will finish up that project by late August and move to the Town Hall Annex. And that roof, which as you all know has been leaking for quite some time, will be replaced, as will the one over the elevator equipment room, the building equipment room just to the left of the elevator shaft as I'm facing. And so we're looking forward to getting those projects done and implemented. We are also presently, we're receiving bids through this Thursday at 3 p.m. For a much smaller in scope project, making some improvements that should enhance the structural soundness of the Millers Falls Library basement, or I should say first floor, through work in the basement, as well as reduce moisture infiltration by scraping and parging, I believe the word is, the interior walls that are subject to the greatest moisture infiltration, and also filling the window wells that presently serve as places for water to pool and sit against the building foundation. And so we're looking forward to getting that work done. Most likely you'll see a contract to sign by August 5th, if everything goes according to plan. That was an article at this year's town meeting. Once we're done with that project, we'll move on to the Montague Center Library's bidding, because there was a similar focus, reducing moisture in the building, but very different project going on over there.
Good things, thanks.
Yes. And the update on the audio-video display options for the conference room, we should be able to complete the project within a reasonable budget at a cost of under $2,000 to the select board. We have matching grant money. We have a contribution that is coming from MCTV for the capital improvements that will be fixed in this room. They'll be covering the basic hardware. There will be other work on wiring, electrician work, etc., that we'll be picking up as part of it. The Conservation Commission is also going to be providing, I believe it's $500 to help defray the cost. They're really looking forward to having high-quality digital display so that when they're zooming in on an area and having a conversation about that area, it should be a tremendous asset to them. and they had a set-aside fund for those types of
So there are gonna be
investments.
monitors on,
There'll be a monitor here, there'll be a monitor there, and we will have the third rolling monitor, which can be set up here for the audience and the board's convenience, and also can be brought downstairs, so that when there's training, staff meeting, we'll have vendors who come in and do demonstrations in software, and we'll just have a much better capacity. I think it's a very cost-efficient solution to the problem. And so,
the painting on the wall. I just noticed on that wall, there's a bunch of holes.
Oh, I was purposely not looking that way because I knew
Oh.
that they were there.
That used to be where a camera was, I think.
Cost number you getting right now?
yeah, I have to apologize to everyone. My first day back from vacation, I have the email with the specific number downstairs.
Okay.
I believe it's in the vicinity of $1,490, but I didn't want to stop the meeting in its entirety. This is well within the board's original sort of comfort range, and so what we're looking for is simply authorization to proceed. We'll be taking the town share from the information technology discretionary budget.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good,
Okay.
thanks.
Sorry, I left that file downstairs. I
Okay, do
was
you have anything
scrambling.
else?
I do not.
Okay, Chris
Oh,
just
there's
handed
one,
me a note.
yeah, there's
Yeah,
one note
just-
that was in your packet, yes.
So, from the Montague DPW, while schedules can change due to weather and contractor availability, we anticipate road milling and repaving on Main Street, Montague Center, south to 47, which will begin on July 23rd, Tuesday, July 23rd, and be ongoing through the end of the week. Traffic will be substantially affected by this work. Police details will be on site, and travelers may wish to seek alternate routes.
Yes. They expect that they will spend 2 days milling and then 2 days paving.
Good. All right, do you have anything for topics not anticipated, anybody? Our next regularly scheduled meeting is 2 weeks from now, Monday, August 5th, 7 PM on Town Hall. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion
Second.
made, seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 8:27.
Okay, and I just have these contracts